the prosecutor who works in the case. The renewal, it's what Kövesi thinks, how Kövesi acts. The main topic here, it's about what really happened in OPKP and who is responsible for what. And please let me to remind you what I said in October here in Greece, when I said that OPKP is an acronym for corruption, nepotism, and clientelism. And this is what is the real question. So I think this is an attempt to shift the attention for the real questions to something different. And I really trust the Hellenic citizen will see behind this screen smoke that it's around. They will see the truth. Now, to reply to your question, I'm a prosecutor. I have been a prosecutor for more than 30 years. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad one. For me, for my colleagues, as prosecutors, we see corruption, abuse of power, fraud, trading of influence. These are crimes. These are defined as a crime in the Greek law. These are defined as a crime in almost all the other members of the EU as crimes. Okay? So, no one in the world will convince me that these categories are part of job description of politicians here in Greece or somewhere in the EU. No one will convince me about that.
Understood. Still, do you know, or can you share with us if there are other cases of fraud, embezzlement, misappropriation of European funds that have the same political radioactivity as OPKP pending in EPPO now, concerning Greece?
Okay, when we finish this panel, I will go to ask the Oracle. We are in Delphi.
No, I'm just asking if there are, if
the Oracle will give me an answer, I will reply to this question.
But let me come back to my first question. We've talked about OPKP, which is a special case with a political significance and brings about political debate. How political is your mission? I mean, you're not just there to protect European funds from fraud and embezzlement. You're there to fight corruption, as I understand it. Isn't that a political mission too?
Well, as I said, we are prosecutors. We are here to do our job. And our job is to prove that the law is equal for everybody. We are not investigating politicians because they are politicians. Because sometimes politicians are on our side. The politicians are the one who makes the law for us to work properly, to be efficient. And, you know, there are good politicians and not as good politicians. There are good prosecutors, not as good prosecutors. In any field, you have good or less good people. Here it's about respecting the rules, respecting the law. And let's clarify this thing with the lifting the immunity. You know, the members of the parliament decided to have a kind of safeguard to be protected against the abuses of prosecutors. So they put this immunity. In order for us to find out the truth, to make the investigation, to see if the allegation is right or wrong, to see if a member of parliament can be guilty or not. Because in the end, we are just making the investigation and the judgment has to establish who is guilty, who is not guilty. It's not for us. We have to follow this step to lift the immunity. We cannot interrogate a member of the parliament if we don't lift this immunity. We cannot create evidences in our cases, even disculpatory sometimes, if we don't follow this step. So it's a normal step to ask for lifting the immunity. This request doesn't mean that it's an indictment. This request doesn't mean that it's a judgment saying that the member of the parliament is guilty. It's a step for us that it's mandatory for us to follow in order to continue the investigation. It's only about this, respecting the rules, nothing else.
Would you prefer that to be free to interrogate without asking for immunity to be lifted? Because in some EU countries...
If the legislator will decide this, we will respect. But the legislator decided they need to have this guarantee against the potential abuses of the prosecutors. So what we are doing is just respecting what they put in place.
To ask you straightly, do you feel your EPPO is antagonized by Greek authorities or by Greek politicians or the Greek government?
I don't think so. We have great colleagues in EPPO that comes from the Greek judiciary. So for me, this means that they are the best prosecutors. So Greece has very good prosecutors, very good judges, very good police officers, and we see this in our each day. I think there is a support from the national authorities because we get the support that we needed in our office. To give you an example, they changed even the legislation for the EPPO. You know, we have this system in EPPO with a permanent chamber. So we have 3 European prosecutors from the 3 different member states, and they supervise the investigation in the other member states. Me, as a member of one of permanent chamber, I see all the cases from different member states that are allocated to my permanent chamber. We were a little bit shocked at the beginning, because what we saw in Greece. In Greece, if you commit a fraud, you steal money, you are caught, maybe you steal 10 million, in one moment you are caught, that you have stolen 1 million euro, you pay back the money, you are free to go. How come? It was a shock for us, you know? And we discussed, this is not possible. This is not possible. And I know that for us as EPPO, working in 22 member states is very difficult to work in a coherent way because we have to act in the same way, even if we have different systems, different mentalities, different way of doing things. But the Greek authorities, when we spoke, they changed this. They changed this law. Very good. They changed also the laws, also in other member states. This was an example for Greece, but we have these examples also in other member states. What does this mean? This means that this is the European way to do things. And once you enter in EPPO, you have to accept this. To give you an example, Hungary, one of the first decisions of the new elected party, leader of the party, was to say, we will join EPPO. Why? Because this is a question of trust in the EU community. And this is why EPPO exists, to prove that the law is equal for everybody, and we apply the law equal for everybody.
Since you mentioned the changes of law, you mentioned, last time you were here, the need to change the constitution, the Greek constitution, concerning the way ministers are interrogated or brought to justice. Is this an ongoing discussion, or you accepted that it's the Greek constitution and there's nothing to do about it?
I never asked to do anything in Greece. I explained how we work. In Tempe case, because of the regulation that are in the Greek constitution, I said that we cannot continue the investigation because we have this provision, and we had to refer part of our investigation to the parliament. We cannot find out the truth. We cannot move forward in the investigation on that side of the investigation. I don't know if those persons involved in that part of investigation are guilty or not, what they did. We don't know, and we cannot find out because we have this provision. If they will change or not, it's not up to me to say that. But I will continue to say that in all the cases in which the ministers or former ministers are involved, we cannot continue the investigation, and this is why we cannot perform our duties. Now, they have to decide if they will change it or not.
Now, you have been, the Prime Minister expressed the wish that the process concerning politicians in the OPEC case is accelerated. And I understand that there's a new law to be passed for a more rapid process when in cases where politicians are involved or state functionaries are involved. How do you see that? Do you feel it's a step in the right direction or not?
I saw the statement of the Prime Minister. I think it's a fair one. He's right. He's right. We have to finish this investigation very fast because there is a high expectation for the public to clarify what happened. But everyone has to understand that we are humans, and also we have only 24 hours in which we work, and maybe we have to sleep a little bit. And our resources are very limited. Up to now, in this investigation, we have only one police officer who works with our 2 prosecutors, 3 people who has to assess thousands of documents. They have to listen hundreds of wiretappings. It's not easy. But the good thing is that we have an agreement. Yesterday, we had a very good meeting with the Minister of Interior, and we will have more resources in order to move further in this investigation. I had this discussion with the Minister of Justice regarding to changes in the legislation. I understood that they want to do something in order for the procedure to go faster. I really welcome this, and I agree that we have to do something. I also express one opinion. Again, it's not that I ask the Greek authorities to do something, but we have an overview of 24 different judicial systems, and maybe we can have good ideas. And I share one of the ideas. We have this system here in Greece with the prosecutors at first instance and Court of Appeal and Supreme Court. It's something that we have in all the other member states. It's great and has to exist like this. It's how the prosecution office, it's built everywhere. But once they are appointed in EPPO, in all the other member states, our European delegated prosecutors can do and can perform the job from the first instance or from the Court of Appeal. In some member states, they cannot participate in front of the Supreme Court, and we respect this. But for the investigations, you don't make the investigation because you are from the first instance, and after that you give the case to someone who is from the Court of Appeal to repeat the same thing. Practically, we duplicate our work here in Greece. It was one of our ideas. We expressed the ideas. We didn't say you have to do it like this or like that. We explained how it is in other member states, and we agreed that we will send a proposal. If the minister considers that this can help to make the procedure faster, if the Greek parliament considers that this is a good idea, they can do it. I think we have to share what we see, and we have to act, as I said, as a single office in all the participating member states, and we see a lot of things that can be improved. We just express the ideas.
I made a calculation among the cases that EPPO opened. The investigation started on the European level in 2025. I saw 5% of these cases concerned Greece. So Greece is 5% of your European cases. It's about a little bit more than the percentage of that Greece represents in European population, where something around 3.5%. How does Greece fare in a European scale of corruption, if I would say?
Well, you know, we have the annual report. We publish all the statistics. But if someone imagines that we have top 1, 2, 3 very corrupt countries, we don't have. And to be very clear, because I have to speak about Romania, the country that I know best. I know very well what happened in Romania, and it was a corrupt country, and now I'm happy to say that corruption is not seen as a way of life in Romania. I'm very proud of this. And I heard at that moment that Romania is a very corrupt country, and I had the impression that, well, maybe it's like this, maybe not. Now, as European Chief Prosecutor, after 5 years of operation of EPPO, knowing exactly what is happening in 24 member states, I have to tell you, there is no clean country. There is no clean country. There is corruption everywhere. There is fraud everywhere. There is VAT fraud everywhere. There are custom frauds everywhere. Maybe the level is a little bit higher or not. Maybe there are systemic issues or not. But the fact that you don't discover, you don't investigate, this doesn't make you a clean country. When you clean your house and you put the dirt out on the carpet, this doesn't mean that your house is clean. So at least here in Greece, I cannot say, everyone can compare our statistics, they are public. I cannot say that, Greece is very corrupt because we have 100 cases or 50 cases. I don't know, I don't count this. For me, it's important, just to give you an example, this year we have double of the new cases registered in Greece because a lot of citizens sent complaints to us. This is a good sign. They trust in what we are doing. But what I can tell you is that our colleagues here in EPPO in Athens are very good. And I have to admire their courage, their determination, their activity to change this. I heard all the time, this is how we do things in Greece. No, they want to change this. And this is very important. I don't know how many requests of lifting of immunities were in Greece. Maybe there were hundreds. I don't know how many members of parliament or former ministers were investigated before EPPO started in Greece. I don't know. But I can tell you that these prosecutors have the courage to do it. And this is the main important thing. It's not about how corrupt, comparing with Romania or with Germany or with France or with other member states we are. The important things, you have a problem, do your job. You are a prosecutor, you see that there is corruption, do your job. You see that you have problems in legislation, change the law, do your job. Because if all of us do our job, of course we will live in a cleaner country where everything will go better and corruption will not be anyway a way of life.
If I ask you, you told me that you don't count cases and you don't compare countries. But speaking of Greece, and from the experience you have all those 6 years, what would you say are the hotspots of corruption? Are they the same all over Europe, or each country has its own? I mean, the points where corruption starts and is in a way facilitated.
I would say two things about this. Of course, corruption and fraud, it's a little bit different because it depends on the specificities of other countries. To give you an example, you have a country who has a big harbor, you know, and I hear all the time, Ms. Kövesi, we don't have a problem with VAT fraud. We don't have a problem with custom fraud because they don't discover anything. Some of them have the cleanest harbors in the world. Nothing is happening there. But we have a huge issue with the drugs. And all the time I said, based on what I know, the cocaine doesn't fall from the sky, you know? It's not like snow. That has to enter in your country via ports, airports, trucks. So if you don't have a good system to check at the custom, and in the harbor, of course, you have this issue. But in these member states, maybe you can have a high level of corruption in the harbor. If you have in other member states a big agriculture, maybe you have corruption in connection with subsidies for agriculture. So you have these specificities. But the corruption, it's everywhere, it's the same. The second difference that I see is the mentality. The mentality, and trust me, I went through a lot of things during my career, and there is nothing more difficult than to fight with mentalities. You can have the perfect prosecutors, you can have the perfect judicial system, can have the perfect laws, but if the mentality is wrong, and this in some member states can be a problem. I've told you, I'm tired to hear, this is the way how we do things in Greece. Really? I don't think so. I met a lot of Greek people. I receive a lot of complaints, a lot of letters from the Greek people. I even received a letter from a very honest farmers. After we started with OPKP, who put photos with her farm and she said, Ms. Kövesi, I couldn't have subsidies because I didn't know anyone at political level. And some people took subsidies and they went in very luxurious trip. They bought luxurious car. And look, I have this farm and I have this small kid. And I really want to do something. When you receive this kind of letter, you cannot believe that the Greek people accept corruption as a way of life. I don't believe that. I don't buy this. This is not the way how the things are in Greece, at least from my perspective. And I really admire all the people who have the courage to take stand and to be different than this.
So we come back to the OPKP case, which is a big one because it concerns a lot of, not just political figures, it concerns a lot of people, farmers, and the way they live and they are financed. So when do you feel this case will be over? I mean, your investigation, when do you feel you would be ready to bring the whole case into light?
In some of the cases, we already finalized the investigation. The cases are in the court. We already have some judgments. In some of the cases, we are continuing the investigation. If we speak about this specific case regarding the lifting the immunity, because probably this is the most known investigation in this moment. Yesterday, we received the reply from the parliament. I think it's very good. This shows that everyone wants to find out what happened. I hope we can continue with this investigation in the very fast rhythm. This will be a priority for us. I'm very happy that we had this agreement with the Minister of Interior to designate few police officers to work in these specific cases. This will help a lot and will give us the possibility to move forward with the case. And I hope as soon as possible we will have a reply. It's also in our interest to finalize this investigation very fast.
Okay. Now, all in all, do you feel that your agency, EPPO...
We are not an agency. We are a EU institution.
An institution, right.
Thank you.
Right.
It's important.
You're right. You're an institution, an independent one. But was your independence tested?
Oh, in each day. In each day. Mm. Our independence was tested all the time. And I have to say that we have a good team in EPPO. And for us, for me especially, and this was from the first day, independence is the red line. You cannot cross that line. You can do other things, but you cannot cross that line. And EPPO is not independent only because this is how it's written in the regulation. It's not independent just because we have the way how we organize the activity. I've told you about this system with permanent chambers. So when the investigation is monitored by 3 prosecutors from 3 different other member states, any interference in the investigation, it's almost zero. It's also about the spirit that you have, the people that you have there, the prosecutors that they are really aware about their independence. And this is why the renewal of the prosecutor is so important. And if they do a good job, if they do their job, if they have an outstanding job, why you have to stop them? Let us to do our job. Let us to be independent. Let's all respect the rules. This doesn't mean that someone contests the authority of someone else. It's just to making the right thing. And I really trust that the Greek authorities will do the right thing.
If you started over from the beginning, your term, is there something really important that you would like to be done differently?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe what I will do differently, I will push more the European Commission to give to EPPO the right budget, to not do not be the beggar of Europe for EPPO for 7 years in order to ask for few resources in order for us to be able to do our job. But otherwise, for the way how we work, for what we achieved, for the team that we have, I wouldn't change anything.
And final question. You have said it before, there's no clean country in Europe. Corruption is everywhere. Fraud can happen everywhere. But you have been criticized, even from Brussels, even from the European Commission, that by overstressing the levels of corruption in a country like Greece or Europe, in a way you undermine trust, citizens' trust to institutions, to democracy?
Okay. There were a lot of critics regarding to me. But to this, it's very easy. Listen to this. Dear colleagues, there are no crimes in Greece. There is nothing in OPKP. Everything is clean. There is no corruption. There is no fraud. Would you believe me? Yes, of course. If you lie, are you trustful? Because this is the problem with the statistics. I heard many times. Why, Ms. Kövesi, do you publish your annual report? Why do you say that there are crimes? Because this is the truth. And you say, there is corruption, but you have a very powerful tool at EU level. You have EPPO. Your money are better protected with EPPO. Why? Because we have created this new institution to fight against fraud, to protect the financial interest of the EU, to protect the European budget, to protect the national budget, and in the end, for the citizens to feel more secure. You cannot be credible if you don't say the truth. And this is the truth. Yes, there is fraud in Europe. Yes, there are misappropriation. Yes, there is corruption. Yes, there is abuse of power. Are we doing something? Yes, we are doing our job. And I think in this way, you can be credible. In this way, people will trust more in the institutions. And in this way, if you prove that the law is equal for everybody, this is how you raise the trust. Not lying, not saying that everything is perfect, when everyone knows that it's not perfect.
Thank you very much. It
Thank
was
you.
It was really a privilege to listen to you. I know
give
there
you
are